Let's get started on Chapter 2, Network Hardware Essentials. In this chapter, we just do a brief overview of network hardware. We will go into all of the concepts covered in this chapter in greater detail in subsequent chapters. So in Chapter 2, we will look at what is a network interface card, what is a repeater, what's a hub, what's a switch, what's a protocol analyzer, a wireless access point, a wireless network interface card, a router, and network interface card drivers. Let's start with what is a network interface card. As you recall from Chapter 1, a network interface card is a circuit board, and the network cable plugs into a port on the back of the circuit board. The network interface card is a circuit board, and it plugs into slots on the motherboard, or it can be built into the motherboard. Network interface card plugs into a slot on the motherboard, then the cable plugs into the back of the network interface card, and then the cable connects to the hub. The cable connects the network interface card to the hub. Now, the maximum distance that you can have between one device and another when we're using a standard Ethernet cable is 100 meters. Well, what if it's more than 100 meters? Well, that's a problem. Page 62 discusses attenuation, and attenuation means the farther a signal goes, the weaker it gets, and it gets weaker and weaker until the receiving computer cannot make sense of it at all. So if we're under 100 meters, we're okay. But if we need to go more than 100 meters, then what we have to do is to get a repeater. A repeater is a simple device where you plug the Ethernet cable into one end, it boosts the signal and pushes the signal out another Ethernet cable at the other end. If you have to go over 100 meters, you use a repeater. If it's under 100 meters, you don't need a repeater. Page 62 discusses what is a hub. Well, a hub is simply a junction box that connects many different computers together. And the question is, does a hub also boost the signal? Well, that depends whether or not it's a passive hub or an active hub. If it's a passive hub, it does not boost the signal. If it's an active hub, then it also functions as a repeater. Sometimes we call it an active hub. You can also call it a repeating hub. So if you have, on the passive hub, if you have one computer plugging in on the left side, one computer plugging in on the right side, you can only have a 50-meter cable from the hub to one computer and a 50-meter cable from a hub to the other computer, because that's a total of 100 meters between the two without the signal getting boosted. But if you have an active hub, you can have one computer connected on a cable to the left side, 100 meters, and another computer coming out the other side also going 100 meters. So when you connect with a passive hub, 100 meters total. When you connect with an active hub, since a hub also functions as a repeater, then you can get 200 meters between the computers. Page 66 discusses what's a switch, and an Ethernet gigabit switch is commonly used to connect computers together. A switch is a junction box that connects computers together, so in that respect a switch is very much like a hub. The big difference is a switch is much faster than a hub. It supports greater bandwidth than a hub. We will go into greater detail on the difference between a switch and a hub in Chapter 7, but for the moment we just leave it that a switch is a junction box that connects many computers together like a hub, but it supports greater bandwidth. A wireless switch is also called a wireless access point. A wireless switch is built into our wireless router, page 77, and the wireless switch allows PCs to connect to the wireless router. A wireless network interface card is a circuit board which plugs into the motherboard on the PC and allows the PC to connect to the wireless access point using radio frequency connection. Now, frequently, network interface cards are built into the motherboard of the laptop. So you can have a wireless network interface card which is a separate circuit board which you or I could plug in, or it could be built into the motherboard of the laptop. Page 88, routers. Whereas switches connect PCs to PCs to form individual local area networks, a router is used to connect networks to networks. A router is used to connect networks to networks. Two examples, LAN to LAN routing and LAN to WAN routing. Here's an example of LAN to LAN routing. Have a local area network here in one building, a local area network here in another building, and we want to connect the two together using a router. And then LAN to WAN routing is where the router connects us to the wide area network. This is a diagram of the network at CCBC Catonsville, and we have multiple buildings. And in each building there is a switch, and that switch connects all the PCs together in that building. And in another building you have a switch, and that connects all the computers together in that building. In our data center we have a switch which connects all the servers together. And in the middle of campus there is a router. And the purpose of the router is to connect the buildings together. The purpose of the router is to connect the local area networks to the local area networks, and then to connect everyone to the internet. We will cover routers in greater detail in a subsequent chapter. Examining traffic between computers. A protocol analyzer is a piece of software that's used to examine all traffic which is being sent over the network. One protocol analyzer is called Sniffer, and that costs $16,000 for one piece of software. Here at CCBC, we use a protocol analyzer called Wireshark. A protocol analyzer is a piece of software that allows us to listen to all traffic on the network. Good guys use protocol analyzers to fix network problems. Bad guys use protocol analyzers to eavesdrop, to steal credit card numbers, to steal passwords. That's why we use encryption, which we will talk about in the security chapter. This is Wireshark, and what Wireshark is showing us here is overall network traffic. In other words, we can see that network traffic is about 50%, then it jumps up almost to 100%, and then it drops off to 0%. So on one hand, it can simply show overall network traffic. But more specifically, a protocol analyzer allows you to see every packet which is come and gone in and out of every workstation. You can see here is a packet going to workstation 10.29.1.21. The protocol analyzer allows us to capture every packet and look at the contents of that packet. We will talk about protocol analysis in greater detail when we get to Chapter 3. Page 82, Network Interface Card Drivers. As you know, a printer needs a printer driver. If you don't have a printer driver, the printer can't print. A network interface card, as you know, is a piece of hardware, and a network interface card driver is a piece of software. And the purpose of a driver is to take the data from the operating system and put it into a format which is acceptable by the piece of hardware that the data is being sent to. You have to have the right printer and the right printer driver, and you have to have the right network interface card driver for the right network interface card. So to see which drivers we have, we go down to Windows 7, we click on Start, And then we click on Control Panel, and under Control Panel we select Hardware and Sound, and then under Devices and Printers we select Device Manager. Device Manager is a program that shows us all of our installed hardware. And if we look at our network card and we right click on that and select Properties, we can see that the driver being used for this network interface card is a Intel driver being used for a gigabit network connection. We can see, yes, the driver is installed. Now, if we wanted to, we could uninstall it, we could disable it, we could even update the driver, and we will talk about that later in the class. So, network interface card is a piece of hardware, a network interface card driver is a piece of software, and Device Manager allows you to see whether or not that driver is installed, and it allows you to install new drivers, which we will cover later in the course. And Chapter 2 is a short one. In Chapter 2 we just discuss network interface card, repeater, hub, and switch, protocol analyzer, wireless access point, wireless network interface card, router, and network interface card drivers. As I said, we will go into these topics in greater detail in later chapters in the course. Otherwise, this concludes Chapter 2. Thank you very much, and have a nice day.